Last time we left off with war in Europe, talking about kind of the beginnings of the First World War and kind of what was going on before the United States joined. Obviously, this story is about the American people, so it didn't go into as much depth as maybe it would have, but it does talk about some of it. But now we are on to America enters the war. When President Wilson proclaimed neutrality, it was taken as a matter of course. It is true that American sympathy was unequally divided. A majority of the public sympathized with Britain and France, and, above all, with Belgium. But they had cheered for the sidelines before without becoming involved in the game. Traditions of neutrality were strong. The United States had never had a peacetime alliance. Its only wars with European powers, two with Britain and one with Spain, had been fought on the high seas or on the American continent. American volunteers had sometimes entered foreign conflicts, but never in American uniforms. The first doubts that the United States could maintain neutrality came with the German submarine campaign against merchant shipping. The British fleet commanded the seas. The only effective way the Germans could strike back was by unexpected attacks on unprotected merchant ships. For this purpose, the submarine, shrouded by the waters from lurking cruisers and destroyers, was the most effective weapon. In 1915, the great British liner Lusitania was sunk, and more than 100 Americans were drowned. President Wilson made a vigorous protest. Bryan resigned as Secretary of State, fearing that the United States was drifting towards war. Ex-President Roosevelt demanded action. He accused Wilson of using weasel words and being a Byzantine logothete, which sent most people to their dictionaries. Yeah, I had never heard that word neither. Wilson still tried to avoid war, hoping perhaps to negotiate a peaceful settlement when both sides were tired of fighting, as Roosevelt had done with the Russo-Japanese conflict. But sinking still continued. In the campaign of 1916, most politicians ignored the question of intervention and talked about Mexico and the railroad strike. The Republicans, except for Roosevelt, took no definite stance, fearing perhaps to lose either the German-American vote or the preparedness supporters. Many Democrats praised Wilson for keeping us out of war. Once assured of his re-election, Wilson asked both European sides to state their aims. The Entente allies prepared a statement. The Germans did not, but they offered to enter into secret negotiations. When the Germans announced their intention to renew unrestricted submarine warfare, Wilson broke diplomatic relations with them and proposed armed neutrality merchant ships to carry defensive artillery. There were other causes for conflict. For example, by the Zimmermann Note, the Germans offered Mexico, Texas, New Mexico, and Arizona in case the United States declared war on Germany. There were sabotage plots against American munition plants. Finally, on April 17th, Wilson asked Congress for a declaration of war. The world must be safe for democracy. Its peace must be planted upon the tested foundations of political liberty. The declaration of war carried, but not without some opposition. 6 negative votes were cast in the Senate and 50 in the House of Representatives. Yeah, so that's all of the talking. Yeah, the war with Germany is one of those very weird times because it's very much like Germany goes out of their way to push the United States to joining this war against them. There are many examples where Germany could have done something differently, and it probably wouldn't have happened. Unrestricted submarine warfare? Okay, fine, we won't do that. You know what? And it really wasn't all that effective to begin with, so fine, whatever. We could probably cancel that. But there are other things they could have done. They could have petitioned, hey, why are we not trading with the United States more? Or, hey, why did this not happen? Or, hey, why would they send the Zimmerman telegram, which Mexico was never going to accept because they just weren't going to fight the United States at, at this point? Like, a lot of political blunders that Germany makes that are fully self-inflicted. And it doesn't make any sense. This is not the Germany of the past. I mean, clearly, but just silly. But now we will get into the pictures. So above here is a French journal reprint of an American cartoon of World War I, published in the New York Telegram in May 1915. The Kaiser is being crowned by three infamous pirates. Yeah, you can see. We'll see if they have their. I can't see what that says. Can anyone else? But Captain Kidd, Sir Henry Morgan, and I can't tell who that's supposed to be. But yeah, the idea is that he's plundering and attacking these ships, so he's a pirate king. That's kind of the idea. Not not a bad idea to kind of picture him that way. You know, pirates are evil. See, just like the Kaiser. At the left here is a cartoon by John T. McCutcheon that appeared in the Chicago Tribune in 1915. For decades, the Tribune was outstanding isolationist paper in the United States. Here, the American people are declaring in unison their desire to remain isolated from Europe. Yeah, just because a lot of this war gets on the go, you know, a lot of things. Most Americans still did not really want to enter this war. America very much is an isolationist nation. Were there a lot of people that wanted to join the war, especially after all the things that happened? Yeah, of course. The Zimmerman telegram, pretty bad, you know, saying, hey, Mexico, go attack America, you know, that's pretty bad. Um, the sinking of the merchant vessels, pretty bad. It's just, yeah, pretty bad. Some sabotages that may or may not have been Germany. To be fair, those aren't as guaranteed, but still. Like, it just, a lot of Americans wanted to go to war. Could you say maybe there was a majority? It's possible, but not a huge majority if there was. Most Americans did not want to go to war, just realistically. Isolationist through and through. Above is Wilson's campaign for re-election was based on his promise to keep America out of World War One. Yeah, it's kind of funny. He's like, "Oh, I'll keep out," and then he's just like, "Hey guys, I'm re-elected, so we're gonna go to war now." How fast he turned up, you know, or switched up. At the top here is the New York Times, and most of the other daily papers in the United States headlined the sinking of the Lusitania in their issue of 8th of May, 1915. The ship had been torpedoed the day before. Yeah, Lusitania, probably the most famous. What's funny though, and they didn't mention it here, the Germans claimed it had munitions on it. Well, at the time, it's like, no, no, it was just a cruise liner. Well, much later, they actually went and looked at the ship. There were munitions on that damn ship. They straight up had munitions. And, like, it wasn't unreasonable that Germany attacked it. To be honest. It wasn't an unreasonable thing that they wanted to get rid of that. You know, there's a lot of these cruise liners that had munitions. And it's not unreasonable that they wanted them gone. Once again, though, this is like, it's kind of an unforced error on Germany, but to be fair, too, it's not unreasonable for Germany to be like, what the heck? Why are all these cruise liners, these are supposed to just be people visiting, or simple merchant ships, why do they have all these arms on them? You know, they're not supposed to, but they do. And so, it makes sense why Germany gets so upset. At the bottom here is the Lusitania embarking on a voyage. Yeah, pretty big ship, pretty fancy. But yeah, a lot of these ships were used to have munitions, and but yeah, there were a lot of passenger liners with Americans on them, and that's pretty much that's what upset a lot of people is that the Americans dying on them. So it's not unreasonable to see why America was also upset though. At the right here is an artist superimposed the crosshairs of a German submarine periscope on a photograph of the Lusitania. Yeah, they really want to show you like, oh look, the Lusitania. Oh, look how awful this is. You know, yada 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 yada. Yeah, but they're right, and it's very effective. You know, I'm just gonna be honest. It's a very effective campaign. It's a lot of people upset. And below is Wilson called Congress into special session on the 2nd of April, 1917, and delivered his war message, coining the phrase, "The world must be made safe for democracy." Yeah, Wilson still thinks of himself kind of like Jesus. He's a savior, you know, and all this stuff. So he's gonna push things this way, very much so. And yeah, just yeah, it's Wilson. He's all sorts of things, you know. But that's gonna do it for this video. If you guys liked the video, leave a like. If you have any ways you can improve on these videos, leave a comment down below. I always appreciate your feedback. And as always, subscribe. It really does help out the channel. Thank you.